she replied, a genuine note of regret in her voice. I am going to the gymnasium. Brock's face fell. Well, cannot you skip it just this once? Come on. I will take you to that romantic French place you like so much. Reba raised her eyebrows, truly astonished now. Really? Skip the gymnasium and eat French food? She shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. No confondu bras, she joked softly. Brock sighed, leaning back and rubbing his temples. Man, she blew me off again, he complained, the frustration finally bubbling over. All she wants to do is go down to the gymnasium and spend time with Jordan, her trainer. Reba nodded slowly, beginning to understand the depth of his anxiety. Exactly. Brock stood up and began pacing the living room floor. Frankly, I like the new but, he admitted, throwing his hands in the air, but the new attitude, not so much. Reba could not help herself. Oh, that is really funny coming from the old but, she quipped, a smirk touching the corners of her mouth. Brock stopped pacing and glared at her, completely unamused. Jordan is so great, he mimicked in a high, breathy voice. Jordan is so toned and funny. He dropped the act, his expression turning serious. Well, I got news for you. Nobody is toned and funny. Reba sighed, putting her magazine on the coffee table. Rob, you are overreacting, she told him, trying to inject some reason into the situation. Brock crossed his arms, his jaw set stubbornly. Oh, really? Yeah, I think she might be having an affair with this guy. Reba stared at him, letting the words hang in the air. Barbara Jean with her trainer? She shook her head, dismissing the idea entirely. I mean, sure, he is probably a better man than you are, better looking and younger. But that is it, Brock interrupted, pacing over to the sofa and looking down at her intensely. Reba, I need you to help me out. Reba leaned back, instantly defensive. I want you to go down to the gymnasium and see if there is anything going on, he pleaded. Spy on him for me. Reba stood up, shaking her head vigorously. No way, she declared, crossing the room to put distance between them. Barbara Jean may have a long list of faults, and I have that list if you need a copy, but she is nothing if not faithful. Brock snorted derisively. Yeah, right, he scoffed. Up until now. But now that she is thin and hot, she has all kinds of options. He looked genuinely terrified by the prospect. Reba softened slightly, seeing the genuine pain and insecurity in his eyes. Look, Brock, if it is worrying you that much, be honest with her, she advised gently. Tell her how you feel. Tell her that you just need a hug every now and then. Brock threw his head back and groaned. Oh, now, there is a great idea, he said sarcastically. See? Why, since my competition is a macho, muscular dude, I should go the other way and appear all weak and whiny. He grabbed a throw pillow and tossed it back onto the sofa in frustration. Your solutions are ridiculous, Reba. Makes me to spy on those. Stupid. He trailed off, muttering under his breath about weights and protein shakes. Hard to believe they are supposed to be good for you. The next morning, Van found Mr. H sitting in the living room, looking morose. Hey, Mrs. H, Van called out cheerfully, bouncing on the balls of his feet. You off for your power walk? He did not wait for an answer, launching into his own enthusiastic monologue. Man, I love old people. Power walking, moving along, swinging their arms, like there is a big sale for false teeth. He mimed an exaggerated, aggressive power walk across the carpet. Reba walked into the room, dressed in her usual comfortable clothes, not workout gear. No, I am not going for my power walk, she said, her tone flat. This whole physical thing is getting everybody acting wacko. Van stopped his pantomime and looked at her, tilting his head. What do you mean? Reba sighed, sitting down and rubbing her temples. Well, your dad thinks that the guy who gave Barbara Jean her new body is wanting to take a spin. Van nodded slowly, processing the information. He probably does, he stated matter-of-factly. Reba looked at him, startled. What are you talking about? Van walked over and sat down beside her, leaning in with the air of a philosopher imparting ancient wisdom. Guys are pigs, he explained simply. They are dogs. They are all animals. They just care about hot women. They are hot dogs. He nodded, pleased with his own metaphor. My point is that when you have got a hot lady, you have got to keep your guard up at all times. Reba looked at him, a sudden wave of realization hitting her. I used to, she murmured softly, staring at the floor. Van turned to her, his expression softening into genuine concern. You used to? He quickly backpedaled, realizing how that sounded. No, baby, do not take it like that. It is just that I have grown into a mature, stable individual. That is all. Reba looked up at him, a fierce, protective energy flaring in her eyes. Well, I do not like it. She stood up abruptly, her mind made up. Brock walked into the room at that exact moment. He hummed, looking at the two of them. Where have you been? He asked Van. I went to get something to eat, Van replied, though his mind was clearly elsewhere. Reba turned to Ben, who was sitting quietly in the corner playing a video game. So, Ben, she asked, seeking a rational perspective, you think that Brock might be right about this trainer? Ben paused his game and thought for a moment. Sure, this guy could be hot for Barbara Jean, he reasoned calmly. But since Barbara Jean is not looking to play, there is no problem. And it is obvious Barbara Jean is not looking. Brock leaned in, grasping at straws. Why is this obvious? He demanded. Ben held up 2 fingers. 2 reasons, he stated. Barbara Jean is not good at keeping secrets, and she thinks of you as her best friend. If she were fooling around with this guy, she would be constantly talking about him to you. Heck, she would probably even want you to meet him. Reba froze, the words echoing in her mind. Meet him? She suddenly remembered Barbara Jean's enthusiastic invitation from the day before. Oh, she gasped, a terrible feeling settling in the pit of her stomach. Brock looked at her, hope flaring in his eyes. Where are you going? He asked as Reba grabbed her purse and keys. Go down to the gymnasium with the rest of the wackos, Reba declared, striding purposely toward the door. Brock smiled, calling after her. All right, well, keep those arms a-swinging. The atmosphere inside the gymnasium was entirely alien to Reba. It was a cacophony of clanking metal, thumping bass music, and the heavy, synchronized breathing of dozens of people pushing their physical limits. The air smelled of sweat, rubber, and an overwhelming amount of citrus-scented cleaning products. Mirrors lined every wall, reflecting the frantic energy back upon itself endlessly. Reba stood near the entrance, feeling incredibly out of place in her jeans and sensible sweater. She took a deep breath and ventured further inside. Oh, hey, Reba, a familiar voice called out over the din. You came. Reba turned and saw Barbara Jean waving enthusiastically from across the floor. Yeah, Reba replied, walking over slowly, taking in the sights. Man, there is a lot of beautiful people around here. You should see them naked in the shower. She immediately regretted the joke, clearing her throat awkwardly. Barbara Jean giggled, grabbing Reba by the arm. Hey, she said, pulling her toward a massive array of weight machines. Jordan, hey. A man stepped out from behind a towering piece of equipment. He was tall, perfectly tanned, and sculpted like a Greek statue. He possessed a smile that was impossibly bright and an energy that was borderline overwhelming. Ready to start, Barbara Jean, he asked, his voice smooth and encouraging. Yeah, Barbara Jean replied breathlessly. Hey, you look great in that outfit, she added, smoothing her own tight, brightly colored spandex. Oh well, the other woman is getting kind of baggy. Reba raised an eyebrow, watching the interaction closely. Can you believe her? Reba thought to herself. She did the impossible. She lost all that weight and kept these fellas. Suddenly, Jordan reached out and placed his hands firmly on Barbara Jean. Oh, Reba gasped quietly, taking a step back. Barbara Jean seemed unfazed, adjusting her posture under his guidance. Okay, Jordan, she said cheerfully. Jordan, this is my friend, Reba. Jordan turned his megawatt smile on Reba,